and it's going to be tough. One of the teams who has risen to the occasion, though, Max, DRS, and they're looking to do it yet again today.
Exactly. I mean, the fragging power is just ever present really in that second day, and I want to see that continue hopefully now. But the thing is, and you mentioned it I think a bit yesterday, Jason, now into day 3, a lot of the teams on the second page, they have nothing to really lose. If they have, like, they need to start getting a good performance right now. They need to start stepping up, being aggressive, looking for limbs, because placement points can take you only so far. You need to start fragging out, breaching, and trying to take your future in your own hands. And right now, teams at the bottom could be a major threat, because 18 teams, a lot of teams could be looking at you.
And something that I want to see is how the teams are going to be adjusting now to DRS after day 2, right? We saw, especially early on yesterday on day 2, teams being able to readjust, try to move faster than Vampire Esports was able to do. I'm intrigued to see how DRS is going to be reacting if they do get counter on some of the stuff they were doing really well yesterday.
Well, we're talking a lot about DRS, but why don't we just hear from them as well here? Luckily, we had an interview with them before we kicked off the event. So take a look. When we come back, we'll be kicking off our first match.
मेरो नाम सुबिन कुमार प्रजापति हो म टिम DRS बाट हो अनि हाम्रो टिम चाहिँ नेपालबाट हो हाम्रो चाहिँ अब सेकेन्ड टाइम हो अफिसियल ल्यान्ड चाहिँ अब एक्साइटेड नै छौं हामी अब हामी यहाँ जित्नको लागि छौं त्यही हो अब हामीले चाहिँ यो टुर्नामेन्टको लागि चाहिँ अब डिभाइसहरु किनेर प्र्याक्टिस गरिरहेका छौं दिनदिनै अब टिम सँगै सबै चारै जना खेलेर एकअर्कासँग कोअर्डिनेसन बढाएर प्र्याक्टिस गर्दै छौं हाम्रो चाहिँ टिमको सिनर्जी एकदम राम्रो छ इन गेम नभए नि बाहिरतिर नि सिनर्जी अझै बढिरहेको छ हाम्रो चाहिँ अब त्यही नै हो हामीलाई अब त्यस्तो डर लाग्ने टिम त छैन अब हामीले सबै टिमलाई चाहिँ कम्पिटिसन थान्छौं त्यो कारणले हामीलाई त्यस्तो डर हुने चीज चाहिँ छैन अब हामी नेपालको छोरो हो आउँदै छौं हामी जितेर जाने छौं जय गोर्खाली
Well, as you heard him say, not scared of the other teams, and I think we saw that quite a bit yesterday. Forcing themselves into a lot more fights, winning out in a lot more of those fights as well, and their confidence has to be going through the roof.
Yeah, and he said it was their second LAN event too, so already being so confident in only 2 LANs when a lot of the teams that played like 3, 4, 5 LANs is pretty impressive. So they're doing great, and hopefully it can continue on the side of DRS. But really with the playstyle they were able to showcase yesterday, if teams are able to adapt, be a little bit faster, of course, it can be a little bit more complicated, but I don't expect it to be like that massive of a change. I expect to still see some heavy points coming in.
Yeah, this was DRS day 1 right here, and then all of a sudden, DRS 2, day 2, out of the screen.
Just all chest.
They did so well.
Yeah, out of shot.
I feel bad for our camera operators, man. It was hard enough to get you in the
just
shot.
Keep it like this. Jason, is this what it feels like? Ooh, this is nice. I'm actually tall. Wait, hold on. Am I taller than you?
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It takes 2 boxes.
I think he is tall, actually, yeah.
Nice.
It's okay. It doesn't matter because you know what? You'll always be taller than me in my heart. I don't know if that's a compliment. I actually have no idea what that means.
I'll take it as a compliment.
But what we can do, instead of talking about how tall you can be, let's talk about our overall standings. If you guys missed out on the start of the show, obviously with the show match coming in, we're going to refresh your memories so we can see. Vampire currently leading at 143 points. They should be into the main event for sure, looking at this. But again, looking down the list, it comes down to like the 6th, 7th, potentially 8th place. Infinity IQ only 2 points behind FaZe Clan, where they would be qualified if we ended things off if they did pass them, because Alpha 7 are in our top 6 and already qualified to the main event. But Max, we should also keep in mind of this. We talked about DRS. We talked about some of these teams at the bottom who potentially have nothing to lose. But what about your Vampires, man? If I'm Vampire, I might look at some of these teams and be like, you know what? I kind of want to try to keep them out of the main event because they see them as a potential threat.
Yeah, I mean, potentially S2G, you know what this team can do in PMGC Grand Finals last year, so the potential is there. Maybe you see them as a potential threat and say, oh, maybe they're not in a comfortable position right now. Do we maybe not hot drop them, but maybe intercept their rotation? Definitely something of that caliber could come into play, but it rarely happens. But these type of events with so much money on the board, it could definitely be happening here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned SG because, I mean, at what point are we going to start seeing this team, right?
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen them at all. We really haven't gotten a chance to talk about them. I think it was just maybe just one match where we actually got to be like, oh, you know what? SGG did a great rotation. They put themselves in a good spot. And it was yesterday during one of the Aaron Girls. I remember now. They were just like, they're non-existent right now. They're looking like a one-hit wonder after winning PMGC. They had a bad PMPL in Turkey, and right now they're currently just not showing up.
Every time we see them even in a decent position, because their rotations are still no decent, sometimes they do get to those POIs, but they're just not in control. They're not zoning. They're not being as aggressive with teams around them. So the moment they start maybe being more aggressive when they are in those points of interest, maybe things are going to somewhat get into place, but I just don't see it happening. I feel like it's too late to bring a big change after day 1, day 2 didn't go their way.
I feel like DRS has become the S2G of PMGC. Remember, they were like being a little bit passive, and then they started being aggressive, and we saw what SGG was able to do, because SGG during PMGC, if you remember, they were just being very, very consistent, and then all of a sudden they actually started getting ilims. They're being able to actually perform really well. DRS has been showcasing that. Hopefully SGG at some point here. I want to see the Turkish casters go crazy.
Yeah, and I want to see S2G as well just kind of rise up to what we've seen them do in the past, right? And that's the perplexing thing for us, is that we know they can frag out. To me, they're very similar to like Brazil, where they can put up really aggressive gameplay and a lot of eliminations. And I feel like the unfortunate part for them is they have just a lot of pressure, obviously, but even in Turkey, with the amount of strong teams, they don't want any other team or fan out there to be like, why did we vote for S2G? Why didn't we vote for another team who can actually, you know, make Turkey proud? And it's tough when you have to represent your country and represent all your fans out there.
I think it's fair to say that after winning PMGC, they became one of the most studied teams for a period of time, and a lot of people were trying to gather that information. So going back to Turkey, I feel all the teams in their home region were fully prepared to go up against SGG. They know how they drop, how they rotate, had a hard time to perform in that event. But I mean, in particular, HamCG, Calci sometimes have some good moments, but I think especially looking back at the grand finals of last year's PMGC, where's Ray-Z? He is the reason why really the team has been successful, able to qualify through the league stage, able to actually get some great clutch moments to be in that first place on the final day. He's been a little bit invisible too when it comes to not only the entire team, but just on individual performances. So I want to see what's going on with Ray-Z.
And I think that's maybe what they need, right? They maybe just need one player from their team to actually start off great. We've seen it over and over again. I mean, in different regions too. And we started seeing it here, especially in the PMWI. We saw it with Rebel. He was able to kind of spark the energy for Alpha 7. If not, it would have been a very, very bad day one. And yesterday with Carrillo in day 2, being able to get that save of the day with what he was able to do in Sandhawk as well. They need somebody just to spark them up.
Like killer, man. For DR. To spark the team. Your Nates, where's your Nate from Panthers here? You need someone to be able to do that and really get the energy in your team. I think that's something that can be kind of overlooked in esports in general, is that like the mental game that comes into this when you lose the first match on a, you know, in a way you didn't expect to, or when you lose the second match. You need that person on your team to just kind of shrug it off and make everyone else in the team think that, yeah, okay, we can still do this, and keep them focused. And the focus can obviously be very difficult, especially when you're at LAN events, right? You're not at home, you're not in the comforts of your own bed, you're not Darth Dante with the blanket over your head, you're not Beowulf with a pillow under his chest as he plays. Like, you don't have those comforts, but you have to learn. Yeah, I remembered, the good old Bayo Mayo. You have to remember that this is how it's going to be. You have to be able to perform at offline events.
And I think that's why we're being so critical of SCG, right? They have been there. They have been to those LAN events, especially with them being the PMGC defending champions. We expected so much more coming into this All-Star. Even though, yes, they did end up getting voted in, I wanted to see them in the main event, and right now it's not looking like it. And if I'm being honest,
I don't want to see them if they're playing like this. Give me Fireflux, man. Give me a team who can perform. But then again, jumping the gun, maybe Fireflux has a similar performance. And I don't remember who said this. Maybe it was Sertani, maybe it was you, maybe it was Blank. I don't know. Maybe it was Claris. It's hard to win events and be the champion, but it's harder to maintain that level and harder to repeat that the next year.
Yeah, I mean, Alpha 7 has been a team that's been able to repeat their success after PMGC, right? But S2G had themselves a little bit of a fall off. So after 2 days, I feel like the mental fortitude of the team is kind of dwindling as the days go on. So they're going to really have to pull it back if they want to be able to get themselves in the top 6. But unfortunately, if we do not see, as you said, sometimes it only takes just one player. I don't expect it to really happen. So I'm still crossing my fingers. It might, but I think it might just be too late.
By the way, you mentioned Alpha 7, and I was actually starting to become a little bit disappointed with their performance so far in All-Star.
No.
But wait,
Where
there's
are you,
more. So I decided to have a conversation with their coach, and he told me that they were actually trying to do a lot of new things since they already qualified to the main event. Might as well just give it a try.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about 10 seconds away before we hop into our first match of the day. To remind you guys, it's going to be Sandhawk followed up by 3 Erangels. So we're going to head on over to our commentators to kick off the final day of the All-Star stage here live at Pmwi in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. John Allen and Blank, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jason. Yeah, I'm John Allen. With me is Blank. We are ready for the day's proceedings. You having a good time with the pre-show match that we had? It was pretty good, but Alan Walker didn't have the best of times, although he did play a little bit more of the game than Tops. Hopefully, we're going to see all of these players in the game and participating to the best of their ability.
Yeah, he had some times though. I think that's the main thing. So, you know, kudos to him at the end of the day. But over towards Sandhawk now, final day of All-Stars. We will find out our top 6 heading through to the main tournament to join the 10 teams already waiting there for them. The real beasts here over in the PMWI. Although we've had some real standout performances here in the All-Stars, some excellent play. I think DRS definitely has surprised all of us overall. Some really, really strong moves from both their days. I think first day was kind of just perfecting their rotations here on this 18-team lobby, which obviously is quite difficult to find those rotations in on the early game. Alpha 7 also had something similar. I don't think that they reached the same heights as DRS yesterday, but they certainly improved things a lot more. It did end with just Revo alive on his own once again, which I can imagine he wasn't as happy with, but at least he had his teammates with him just a little bit more this time around.
A couple more incidents of that would be good. We'll have to see what these 6 matches today bring us. I'm sure we'll be ready for what they have. You can see the timers ticking down on the screens. About 140 seconds of that, 2 minutes and 20 until the plane takes off. Sandstorm in the crowd. I could see him. Spotted him.
It's correct. Yeah, about 2 minutes before we start this game, the players start dropping in. Right now, just hovering around Barn at the moment. Keeping themselves nice and safe. But yeah, first game of the day, we've had 2 Northwest Island finishes so far on the circle. I'd be amazed to see that happen again today.
Yeah.
But with our run, you know, statistically it's likely. We're 2 for 2 right now. Though this is not something you often see in these tournaments, so a bit of a wild card for us. We might see this go elsewhere, and the funny thing is with Gladiators playing up towards Camp Alpha and that Northwest Mountain, it is surprising that we didn't see them get as many points, but it's done well in terms of averages, John, that's for sure. They really did need those average points coming through on Sandhawk, because I think they might have fallen away at this point with the way their other games have been going. Definitely a bit more controlled over in their final game yesterday on Miramar. They looked a lot better there, controlling on that edge side on the northeast. It took them a while to get into that sort of position, but I do think that they're getting back to basics once again. Once they get a feel for a lobby, they can start playing from there. Bigatron Red Villains fell off quite a bit. We saw Rising yesterday, but really wasn't as effective as we were hoping them to be.
Yeah, it wasn't as strong as we've seen Ryzen be in the past as well. When you look back at the roster put together, Luxy, Zuxy, Ryzen, Microboy as well coming through, he was a very powerful player there, and it wasn't shown in the last games yesterday, but still it was just, you know, a very small sample size, right? So we'll hopefully see a little bit more today if they're fielding him, that is. So we'll have to wait and see. Plane path from Hatin over towards Kampong for our first match.
Yeah, dropping in for our first match of the day of PMWI All-Stars. Obviously, this is day 3, so the final day to accrue those points from 6th through 10th. I would say it was possible to make your way up into that 6th position to get a chance of that position over towards the main tournament. And it will be all starting here on Sandhawk in the jungle, where things can get real rowdy. We do already have this fight that happens every single time in boot camp. It's FaZe Clan versus D plus Kia.
Sayden knocked in a second as well, sent back out towards Forest, but Mela is super low behind that corner. Can't peek out for the flush just yet. Favian, bullets, weapons, sure. Not really too much to speak of in terms of armor though, so needs to stay careful, wary. Osal close to getting that res for Forest. Seyden still has a little bit of time. Mela absolutely red here. Ventores has got that helmet. And Mela might just be going a little bit too bold. Getting on the inside, Favian peeks out. Position given away. FaZe have already lost a player, and that's what you want. Favian finds the mark. And all 4 players for D plus Kia are alive still. Seyden resable, but that time is ticking away. Ventores trying to cover off his teammate, but just not really having the best of luck. The res now enacted and just gets out of there for FaZe. All 4 alive, crucially for D plus Kia.
You know, if you get the best of luck as well, you could win some Pmwi special rewards over on the application. That crate is available from July 15th through August 15th, so make sure you snag them whilst you still can. That is a nice looking skin. Over towards the rest of the map though, D plus Kia winning out on that engagement. FaZe sent away, tails between their legs, 71 points just behind that 6th place barrier. You know, that is really big news for them. Currently, they're still in that top 6 that would make it through to main tournament because Alpha 7 has already qualified. But either way, I think that they'd rather get some points here because the Infinity, BTR, they are not far behind, only 2 points.
It is very, very close in the middle of those tables. You do have a little bit of a drop-off down to S2G and below. But that is still very, very quick to turn. It's just one big game, and it's absolutely all over for them. But hopefully a little bit more luck in their future. Circle drops up north, which means that S2G are pretty central in Paradise Resort. You've also got Aegon XA8 up in Cow, who are going to have a good time. A wide split for R8, coming off the back of their Team Deathmatch victory. Going to be feeling nice and warm on a split near the Western Bridge, near Tapmock as well. Controlling a lot of territory.
DRS on our screens, we've talked a lot about this team, man, and I think it's because they have been so phenomenal. Obviously overshadowed by the last game yesterday by Vampires. Hard to beat that type of thing where they just shoot up to 143 points at the end of the day, and it was all eyes on DRS for quite some time, and I think that Vampires were getting a little bit jealous of all the attention, so redirected the eyes onto them. But coming today, DRS have certainly secured themselves a very strong 2nd place. GG Gaming Gladiator is behind them, 94 points currently. So not too far behind that 2nd place, but they are more in the running for teams to overtake them.
Ooh, that is unfortunate. Both players getting rattled off the back of the moped. Lapara and Yuhai both falling down. Nothing really to do about that. There's Exus pulled them short. Now it's just Genfos and Alkev, so they have not fielded Ryzen again.
No, I think that's the smart choice, honestly. Lapar had done so much, and it was a bit of an odd decision to take him out of the running yesterday, considering how much he was doing for the team, to get Ryzen back in the mix. And I think maybe that's just a test to see, can Ryzen bring things back around? I think for a guy that has such a good pedigree as well, right, where he's had such a strong performance in the past, and he's been trying to get back into the game as much as possible after a long hiatus, I think testing him out to see if he can maybe shake things up, not a bad idea. But I think right now with BTR being in 9th place, I think you have to go for the consistent roster, the one that worked on day 1. Right now, down to 2 players, it's not a good start for them, John.
Far from it. They have not had the best of times. 9th place, we were talking about how close it is for that 7th place spot. This is absolutely one of the teams that is in contention for it. So to kick off with a team being cut in half is not good news. The flip side of that is that FaZe have also lost 3 players. So now it's just the Infinity to lose a couple, and maybe they're back in the same mix as those players.
So this is a nasty spray down from Trick there. Really throws the guys from Bigatron at Luke, as Lapar also goes down, as well as Yuhai. So probably the 2 worst players you want to be leaving the lobby instantly. 2 most consistent guys down to now just Genfos to really pack things back together again and get moving, because he has been sort of the fixer of a lot of awkward moments with some very good clutch grenades on their side. But again, now he's going to have to face the brunt of any force coming their way. S2G, 10th place right now, 59 points. The guys on the desk, Seven was talking about how they want to see a little bit of a resurgence coming through from S2G to redeem themselves into that final day after coming off from PMGC itself as those champions. We want to see a little bit more from these guys, and I think with the circle centering right up on them over towards Paradise Resort, is a great chance for them to earn some points. We saw yesterday, Vampires, I think they got around about almost 30 points in a game, right? Which is absolutely huge. Now, if S2G could do something similar, have a very strong game, a lot of eliminations, that sends you directly up towards that 6th place spot. So it's not as far as it might seem.
It's very volatile right now. When you're dealing with 6th place type positions for qualification, it is always going to be volatile until you reach, if you're looking at the number of matches in the set, right, you're looking at getting up towards 30 for it to start to be a little bit more consistent. But until that point, it is absolutely game to game changing. So you do need to be constantly getting as many points as possible, maximizing every single opportunity wherever those opportunities present themselves. Not only that, but denying points also becomes very, very important. Sometimes you will see, and in fact we have seen teams or players left in 2nd place just jumping out into the blue, going down to the play zone instead of giving that point across to their opponents in order to reduce the overall points getting entered against them on those overall standings. You also see mollies being dropped under those players as well for a similar reason. So it is absolutely crucial wherever you can, maximize everything.
I think right now at the start of the day, for some of these teams down towards that 10th and below, your Sandhawk right now is very important because you want to start the day off strong at accruing those points. It's really going to be maybe too little too late as we get through the day towards, you know, 4th, 5th, and 6th matches to be able to bump those points up as much as you need. You need that great start, right? That great run up, in which case you can just start consistently getting points, because pressure is a big thing that comes into the minds of these players. If you're not getting those big points right off the get-go, you know, you're constantly looking for those big games. You start making mistakes. You start taking risks that you wouldn't normally take. But if you can get that massive game right now, keeps you a little bit calmer. You can look for those 10-point matches, which are a bit easier to go for. This is the 2nd time Trick has pulled the same trick, and it's found another player over towards Vampire. BTR suffered to this similar rotation earlier on, and Mazexis is being cheeky right now on the northeast side of Bootcamp.
They haven't paid as much as BTR did, but still losing a player really far from ideal. Alpha 7 have been running rings around Falcons for a little bit. They took out that backline first, and now they've encircled them fully. Not even a knock sent back back towards Alpha 7. Yokohama, Donos, Varel may be looking for a 3rd party here, but there's really nothing more to do. The heals can start to come through. They are back at full force. Level 3 helmet for Revo as well, so even if he's peeking over, it's not really going to be instantly punishable.
I think the difficulty with A7 is when they get into a good engagement that they feel confident in, and we see them go toe-to-toe with these teams in gunfights, they are very good at cleanly finishing off teams. A lot of times you'll see them take little to no casualties, hardly any damage as Silas steps up, but can't hit that shot. He was practically free from behind the desk. No surcharge involved, but finally Silas grabs that initial knockout. This is really important for them against Yangon Galacticos.
Razy is there on the crossfire to slow down any approach to Silas's position, but they're not pushing for it. Super Andrew goes down as well, and S2G are good on this hold. Hamzy drops out for that heal, Romeo, and Murnat now left standing for Yangon Galacticos. The nade from Kelsey to lead the charge around the corner, and Razy to follow it up with the shotgun in hand. The UMP, no match for it. Silas lands what he's looking for, and Murnat now last standing. Yangon Galacticos try and move into Paradise Resort, but they are swiftly evicted.
Sent away at the door. This is very unfortunate. I mean, Silas had a gift for the first player, refused it immediately, but he was quite insistent as he came around the corner. DBS finally connects. But this is what you want. This is what S2G was looking for. Clearing out some space down towards Paradise Resort. Play around from this area. Get that big game going. And 3 eliminations right now is quite important for themselves. Now, with 18 teams in the lobby, it does allow you to get more eliminations during these games because there is just more players to go after. So for S2G, starting with 3, does open up a game for a lot more. Now, they are right down towards the southeast side now, so a little bit on the edge. It's slightly difficult to play around with. Tapmock was at north side. We've seen a lot of teams win from this position. Currently, I8 are holding that one down. In the meantime, Gladiators holding on the western bridge, and Vampire are slowly but surely careening in their direction. Send away, I think the scout has been quite successful there.
Playing with 3, remember. Vampire lost a player to the camp from Mazexis, but getting to this compound would be great news. Unfortunately, BTR have their remaining duo, who also lost out to Mazexis, playing on this position. But now R8 have got the beat, and the TDM wasn't enough. Now they're trying to put that final nail into the coffin, keep them from rising. Ravenclaw goes down as Prestige lands the crossfire shots. The smoke's not going to save you as the flush comes through as well. So Vampire on 2. Make that 1 now active as Prestige lines up for another. Schwepp, the last player standing for Vampire. It's a treacherous rotate they've made. The hills might have been a better opportunity, but now Gladiators have that position. And they will be executing with 4 towards the top of those tables. Remember, DRS and Gladiators, the teams on the chase for the Vampire top spot.
I think Mazexis caused such massive problems for several different teams there, particularly Vampires, because they delay the rotation quite a lot. And we know that Vampires typically get towards the circle quite late. It's just early enough though, right? It's just early enough for Vampires to make their way in. But when you're delayed like that from Mazexis, suddenly you have to figure out a new rotational path. By that time, a lot of other teams have already swung their way in, and R8 was already set up. So for Vampires, they were desperately looking for a rotational path, a place to stay, reside, and there was just nowhere to go for them. Very unfortunate.
On this stage 3 circle shrink, we did see Yokohama Donuts Varel move in quite swiftly to the compound that they currently hold, which is very, very central, just out to the east of Lumberyard, where we have said is a very powerful position to be able to hold in circles like this. I would say similarly powerful for Yokohama Donuts Varel to be able to maintain that space. Although that is something we saw them struggle with a little bit over on Miramar, hopefully on Sandhawk, it's going to be a little bit better for them.
DRS, find that opening in the circle over on this eastern side. They are very much late rotators, but they found that position. It's very important to get that, and immediately finding themselves an initial pick-off over towards Alpha 7, now open to route to get towards this compound. This is so well done from DRS. Really quick scouting coming through from Killer. Currently the highest damage in the lobby from this guy, and you see exactly why. Immediately moving in towards the knocked unit, and there's only 2 players there. Alpha 7 are split.
And with the ridgeline being as it is, there's really no backup. You just have to give up this position, give up the player. There's no sightlines that can be executed on from Carrillo further up north, and Mafioso even further up the way. This is pretty close by to Revo, though. They did actually get the res there, okay. I thought the retreat was just a full give up, and maybe DRS have read into this as well. But with the DBS in the grass, Revo has a real opportunity to cause some problems here, even on the low health bar that he has. 5 first aids. They might have isolated that. Wants to go for the fight instead. Doesn't even need to heal. Drops back and hits the deck instead. Yeah, that was gonna happen sometime or other, but could have been a little bit more hairy. DRS control the situation.
Meantime, there's a massive push coming through from the Gladiators, and it goes horribly wrong. Luckily, they're able to get a little bit of clap back, but I think that's down to just 2 players remaining as they headed over towards this northern compound. It was one hell of a send. They're holding over towards this western side. Somehow, some way, they've actually managed to get through. I think they got a couple of eliminations off the back of that. Just the one, in fact. So if they go down here, it'll be a pretty poor finish for them.
Rez onto Meku. Kitsune on the staircase. Has got the shotgun. Forwards for Bensu, and an 8 downstairs is going to do the job, but sent back to Sender. A lovely little pop-up. And the Infinity IQ squad can rest easy for the time being. 3 players, though, from the north side and Cal. They are in the circle. They'll have to hold out a little bit longer. Alpha 7 playing on with 3 on the east side, playing in the shadow of DRS.
DRS found themselves a decent position now with 3rd place and 1st place out of the game. Great time for DRS to extend their lead a little bit. And for D plus Kia, who have 4 members, this is a game that they can certainly excel in. They're over towards that northeast side. They have a compound to play with, albeit a very small one. It's better than nothing at this point in time. And I think D plus Kia will be happy to kind of try solidify their position in that top 6. they certainly can do. They've shown us that they are a very good team when it comes to playing central. Forest has absolutely wowed us yesterday.
Carrillo and Senatex are on the inside. Facing off against the nades from Ali. Sneaks another one around the edge. Doesn't really do too much. Carrillo cooking one of his own and pops it out the door frame. The burn is good. We saw how effective that is on these wooden floors, but Carrillo just manages to dodge around the corner and will stay away from the spread this time around. Ali falls, and I code with him.
Those Molotovs are coming very handy here on Sandknock, and I love that we're seeing much more usage come out of them. We saw it used massively well over towards the Gladiators because it spreads on that wooden floor. On the second floor, forces them over towards the staircase. The players push from underneath. A nice cheeky nade is thrown in, and there's nowhere else the Gladiators can go at that point. So it's very, very well done to confirm that. And that's what you want to do a lot of times. You want to eliminate as much variance as possible. If you can force two players into the worst scenario and get away with just a knock, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Circle heads down towards that south side, though. And we talked about S2G. Now, we'd like to see them do really well. You know what, John? 10 eliminations speaks for itself.
It's just their chance to jump up into the top 6 and get their spot over towards the main tournament next. On the cards, Genfos on the inside with the DBS. There's only one player left for BTR, but you can't let him go. And another shot, last one to find it, might be able to eliminate X8 fully, but no, they're just going to give up on the players on the inside, allow these flushes to come through. 4 shots in the chamber with 6 in the back pocket. It's still enough to handle a player.
Really well done. And I mean,
Alpha 7.
I8 were over towards Tapmock in the first place. A nice nade goes through, but that would be just it now. But yeah, DRS completely explode Alpha 7 as they try and get away from this spot. This is a gorgeous grenade, you can already tell. Finds a knock and an elimination.
Getting those flushes down as well. And finally, Mezexis, the thorn of this lobby, removed for the time being. DRS now turning their attention to SEM9, who have a very central position. DRS continue their march over these hillsides with all 4 of them alive. It's very difficult to slow this team down. S2G from the south might want to do so, but wanting to and executing on that want is 2 very different things.
Next circle shift coming in very shortly. We squeeze up towards that northeast side, and DRS now have a real good opportunity. S2G, who've been a bit down their luck, and DRS, who have been on the rise, they most likely will clash at some point, because I think for S2G, crossing this road, heading over towards the eastern side, is the most ideal situation. A lot of teams thought this was going to head over towards Tapmock, so we'll be moving down from that northwest side. So I think if S2G assumes that we'll see a lot of teams towards the west, they'll likely try and sweep east.
Nice shots there from Hamzy to pick up the points, and 2 more sent into the S2G coffers.
This is unreal.
Really, really solid stuff. Right now, they are looking pretty good to get close to the top 6. If the Infinity IQ squad can stay in this one, they've got 7 eliminations already and get more placements on board. They should be able to fend them off for the time being, but S2G definitely with a bid for the top of the tables. If they go down here, will be drawn a little bit shorter than they would have liked, but still a great entry to their record. Razy very, very low. Nades just pouring on in from DRS, bursting perfectly. And S2G, defending world champions, putting their place downhill by DRS, who have been on a tear for themselves.
Some unbelievably good grenades coming through from DRS at the moment. Hamzy G has to support, and Silas will have to move out, has to hit these initial first shots, gets Delta off the rock at the start, moves over towards the smoke. This is really well done. The fact that he's moved this far up is quite incredible, to be honest.
Only 1 Molotov, he will be expending it here. Delta backed off the rock, as you said, crucially timed for that push potential. Across to the rock for Hamzy as well, as the northern side starts to tidy itself up. Yokohama Donuts Varel trying to stay alive as 4 with Infinity IQ out ahead of them. Hamzy G spotted behind the tree. Will not have the cover necessary. Now just 1 player left for S2G on their heavy fragging run. 12 on the game.
I mean, despite everything, even going down in 5th place here, this is a really good match for S2G to start catching up, to get into that top 6. Silas will just crawl alongside with the blue at the moment. DRS looking to move further in. R8 has lived a long time. That TDM gave him a lot of confidence coming into this one. Yokohama Donuts, they have a struggle bus of a rotation to come out of. The DRS just about clipped Kazimaru, but he might be in cover. No.
Does not have that luxury. Ozusan is forwards missile, left out in the cold here as Bensu gets spotted, flushed as well. Silas finally taken down. So that's S2G and Infinity IQ both eliminated. The Shrink once more goes towards R8, but DRS looking to try and keep this one going. This is a team that could definitely vie for the top spot.
Yeah, taking home that 125 grand for an Nepali team, that'd be a real big result for them. Playing on the outer edge has not been easy. They're in the blue for a long time. They found a strong position to start working their way through, and they immediately exploded from the blue, slapped Alpha 7 across the face, got rid of them out the lobby. Now working towards R8. Final circle approaching soon. R8 currently have a strong position in terms of having buildings to play around with, so R8's having to drop these smokes. So are DRS to allow them to get further in.
Ooh.
First nade is great from Prestige. Now just 3 players. No chance at a res here, John.
That warm-up going well for R8. Threat onto Giante's position as well, but Killer's crawling ever closer with the DBS. Giante opens to Ragnarok, finds a second on the swivel, but the team are dropping as well. Prestige around the edge with SK-Ton trying to stay alive, but Giante falls next. And it's R8 to claim Sandhawk a chicken dinner. They are warm, they are ready, and they put points on the board.
Finishing that game as all 4 players as well, with just 1 player going down right that last second. Taking the TDM into the first match of the day, an incredible result for R8 here. The crowd goes wild for them. But DRS, great job to them. Really, really strong result. I think they struggled to get across that zone. They had to go up against a lot of fearsome squads. An S2G that's finally warmed up to, and they dealt with them very well. But so much utility expended by that team by the end. And the fact that Gante is able to crawl up, get some initial knocks. If they didn't get that first grenade over towards DRS, that could have been a very, very different story. But well done to R8 to take that game.
Absolutely. Very well marshaled as well, keeping all the teams on the west at bay, whilst the east and south kind of handled themselves and forced those fights. Good results for teams like, who are we talking about there? We talk about Alpha 7, who did have a pretty solid fight against Falcons before they kind of just got completely bombarded out of there.
15 minutes, team. I'm telling you.
Okay, well, yeah, to be fair, they didn't really put up the records they were looking for. It's S2G, though, that's the headline for me, in terms of that return to a little bit more power play.
Yeah, 12 eliminations is great. I think that takes them, with elimination points alone, towards that 70 mark. That's very much in reaching distance. And we said right at the beginning of the game for S2G, they need to get a good start.
They absolutely do. Try to pick things up because we've only got 5 matches left, Blank. Time is running out for these teams to get to the top 6 spots, to get to the main event. And it's R8 to take that first step in the first match.
They got that Alan Walker buff, man, taking him down to the TDM and now able to take down the lobby here, getting them some much needed points because they were sitting down towards the very bottom of our leaderboards with Maximin and 7. A good, strong start out of them. But to be fair, not only them, S2G having a great game as well.
Yeah, finally, a lot of eliminations. We said it. We want to see them finally try and take control of their positions, which here no one was really able to take away Paradise Resort from their spot. Though I do wish we did see them cross the road because I feel like there was a very high chance this could have been not only elimination heavy, maybe also chicken dinner, which that would have been perfect to put them back in the race to make in top 6.
I'm with you, Max. I'm not going to nitpick too much on their performance. I'm kind of just happy that we're going to even a chance to talk about SCG, and I'm pretty sure we'll get a chance to talk about them even more. But yeah, the eliminations were there. They were able to defend Paradise Resort, like you said. A win would have been nice, but didn't happen. It's okay.
I'm actually impressed they were able to be as good taking that fight versus Sem9 after they crossed. Like, they were not in a position where they were truly in control of the terrain, and yet they were able to just upset them because I think it's them working with R8 to some extent, and Sem9 were just completely overwhelmed. But yeah, good fight from them, and I hope that can continue. Seems like the buff from that game from R8 did pretty good too. So yeah, some teams that we needed to see step up have finally got a good result here.
Yeah, let's take a look at the match rankings here and so many points they got, as well as the likes of S2G, DRS, and a couple of other teams out there as well, because these points are going to extremely matter considering we only have 5 matches left here in the All-Star event until we actually head into our main event but not before we find out which 6 or 7 teams will be joining us into that. So we're going to see R8 extremely high up there. I mean, the fact they're able to go up against DRS like that and beat them head-to-head was impressive. I do wonder, though, S2G, would they have been able to win that match? I mean, obviously, we'll go to a little bit, actually. We'll save that for now. As we see 22 points coming in for R8 and then DRS at 15.
Yeah, happy to see that DRS has maintained that aggressive nature we witnessed yesterday, right, Seven? We saw a lot more presence from them, and actually really smart from a few teams that I actually noted. DRS, Alpha 7, Ica, 3 teams actually that understood the Eastern Coast is very empty when it comes to drops. I think you have Alpha 7 and Ica drop in there, and they fully understood that this circle is great because it's finally not on the Gladiators Island. So let's just hug the Eastern Edge, and we have really easy entry points, but DRS's high ground was really what set them apart.
Talking about Gladiators, this is what happened when they don't end up getting fed that circle, right? Only 1 point with a team that ends up, I feel like they were rotating a little bit too slow in Sandhawk. They were doing things a little bit too slow, and it kind of showcases here perfectly with the amount of points that they were able to get. And going back to what you were saying there with Alpha 7, I mean, at one point we were watching it, and I was like, hold on, Max. Where did Alpha 7 go? And they were so far to the east that we didn't even get a chance to see them on that map feed. It's good to see that Alpha 7 was able to take advantage of this circle, one that is close to where they usually land. And it's good to see that they were actually able to back it up with some ilims as well.
They were not ready for DRS to push up, that's for sure. Like the moment they came up, DRS and Alpha 7 were like, oh, we don't want to get involved in this. Just went back into the compound and just tried to chill, but they had to move later.
But I think it comes down to DRS being so good at being aggressive when they need to be, right? They knocked down Revel, and they were like, okay, this is our opening chance. And all of them, just the synergy within that team right now, all of them decided to push, get those eliminations, and make A7 back off.
And from the high ground, especially punishing all the teams that were rotating late across the road, and the moment you have that high ground, there's no way you're going to be taking it away from DRS.
Well, I'm going to bring up a phrase that I've said a couple of times now. Flash in a pan. S2G, do you think this is a flash in the pan at them, or do you think this is the momentum they're going to be able to carry throughout the rest of the day?
Ooh, I don't know.
You're going to put us on the spot. It's just one game is didn't watch.
Yeah.
We even made, I was talking about them. I mean, we only seen one game out of them, and once again, they show us one game.
What else?
I'm gonna have to wait. I think I have to wait to see what's gonna happen here in the next Erangel because it's too early to tell. There were stuff that, like you were saying, if we actually start nitpicking, if I don't just go based on, okay, yeah, you know what, it's good to see that S2G finally able to get some ilims, finally able to get some placement points. We're finally able to get a chance to talk about them. I need to see what they're going to be doing here in the next couple of Erangels.
Yeah, the thing is also, this is where they drop. This is Paradise Resort, it's where they drop. They didn't move pretty much this entire game. What if they had to move? I don't think they're going to get as many eliminations. So I want to see them in control of a game where the circle is not coming their way, and they actually have to fight 4 positions in circle and actually try and aim to get the win. So it's a good start, but I need to see a little bit more effort put behind the game.
I think they set themselves up great, though, to at least strike within the top 7, within the top